At 3 a.m., my phone rang. It was the police in Texas calling about my tenant. Now, I live in California, and the reason they called, my tenant said someone was hiding in the crawl space. Y'all, there's no crawl space on the property. So, if you've seen my videos before, you know I invest out of state. I live in LA, sunny, beautiful LA, and I own properties in North Carolina, Texas, Illinois, and Ohio. And every single one of them has broken my heart at least one time. Now, people ask me all the time, Ashley, how do you manage properties from 2,000 plus miles away? Like, isn't that stressful? And honestly, yes, it is stressful. But I think what people really want to know is what actually happens when something goes wrong. Like, what does that phone call sound like? What do you do at 2, 3 a.m. when you can't just pull up to the property? So today, I'm going to tell you 3 stories: the flood, the police call, and the eviction. And then I'm going to tell you what I do now instead, which is a lot less stressful, just so you know. All right. North Carolina flood. Okay, so the first story, North Carolina, I have a townhome there, and it is adjacent to another home. And the neighbor's pipes burst while they were out of town. And my tenant was also not home. He was at work. So water is just going everywhere, just into my unit. I get the call from my property manager, and I'm in California, right? So I can't go over there. I can't turn off the water. I can't put down towels. I'm completely helpless. Now, here's what made it worse. It was the neighbor's pipes, right? Not mine. So I'm dealing with an insurance claim on damage caused by somebody else's property, hurting my property, and I'm trying to coordinate adjusters and contractors from across the country, okay? And insurance moves slowly, y'all. So, I mean, they move slow when you're local, but from 2,000 miles away, it's a whole different level of patience required. You're making phone calls in between work meetings on Pacific time for a property that's on Eastern time, and you're just waiting on photos and updates from people that you've never met. And every day the unit is not rentable, money is out of your pocket, right? So it's an urgent situation. Was it eventually resolved? Yes. Was it passive? Absolutely not. There was nothing passive about it, okay? Especially as someone who works full time. Like, it was completely unpassive. Okay, now the next one. So I had a tenant in Texas who was renting one room in a house, and this tenant was having some mental health challenges. And one night, I believe it was around 3 a.m., the tenant called the police because, so it was 3 a.m. Pacific time. So the tenant called the police because they believed someone was hiding in the crawl space under the house. So the police come out and they call me, of course, and I'm in California. And I have to explain to the police that this house does not have a crawl space. There is no crawl space for anyone to access. Really think about that. Now, I had to handle that very carefully, right? Because I'm not just a landlord in this situation, I'm also an attorney. So I understand that this is a mental health situation and I need to be discreet, right? So I need to make sure the police understand what's actually happening here without making things worse for the tenant, okay? Because, the tenant's already up in arms, so you don't want to make that worse. And that call, that was a long call at 3 a.m. before work the next day. And mind you, I work at 6 a.m. Okay. So 3 hours before it's time for me to work. But wait, so it gets better. So around the same time, I decided I wanted to rent the whole house out instead of just one room. Okay. And I needed this tenant to move out. And I thought, okay, let me be nice about this. I'm going to give ample notice, right? I already had a tenant lined up for the whole house. So I was like, I'm gonna give this person ample time to find somewhere else to live. Like I was trying to do the right thing, okay? Y'all. So when I gave the notice to the tenant, they got so upset that they started breaking things in the house, like actively damaging the property. And now I'm 2,000 miles away dealing with a tenant who is destroying my house and refusing to leave. So I had to retain legal counsel in Texas. So I'm an attorney and I had to hire another attorney in another state to handle an eviction that I was trying to avoid in the first place by being nice and being kind. And it just blew up in my face. So, welcome to landlording. And that's the thing about out of state rentals that nobody tells you. So you can do everything right, right? You can be compassionate, you can give the proper notice, you can try to work with people and still end up paying a lawyer in a state you do not live in to fix a problem that started because you were trying to be nice. Okay. It's a thankless industry. Okay. All right. Let's move on to the Chicago water heater situation. All right, last one. So this one's almost funny, almost. So I have a property in Chicago. It's a duplex, and this one actually have a property management company that runs it for me. Great. They're actually an excellent company. Thank God, right? So one day I get an urgent email. The upstairs unit's water heater is not working. The tenant is upset. There's no hot water. The tenant has kids. It's a problem. And even with a property manager, they still contacted me because I had the warranty information, right? So I had to dig up the warranty, which was from years ago, send it over, and facilitate the conversation between the property manager and the warranty company because the warranty company refuses to talk to the property manager. They want to talk to the warranty holder. So even with a property manager, which by the way, you are still paying for, I'm still involved. I'm still the one digging through files, making calls. It's not just set it and forget it like people make it seem. There is no set it and forget it in landlording, okay? Like you are lording your land, whether you are managing it or not, okay? And that's the punchline, y'all. Even with help, there's no such thing as passive when you own rentals far away, okay? Even when you own rentals locally, it's definitely not passive. And don't let the tenants find out. Okay, so let me ask you something. After hearing all of that, right? The flood, the 3 a.m. police call, the eviction, the water heater, does any of that sound passive to you? Because when I started investing in real estate, that word passive got thrown around a lot. Passive income, passive real estate. And I bought into it, okay? I really did. It was the pandemic, girl was struggling, okay? But every single one of those stories happened while I was working a full-time job as an attorney. And in every instance, I had to stop what I was doing, even sleeping, and handle someone else's emergency. Not my emergency, their emergency, but on my time and with my money, even with a property manager. Okay. And that's when I started asking, what if I could invest in real estate without owning the property? Right? Like, what if I could fund the deal, hold the note, and when things break, it's literally not my problem, right? These are the questions I started asking. And that's what being the bank means. So, as a private money lender, I loan money to real estate investors like me. I secure that loan against the property, I set the rate, I set the terms, and I get paid on schedule every month. No leaky pipes, no 3 a.m. police calls for invisible crawl spaces, no evictions. Now, I'm not saying private money lending has zero risk because it doesn't, okay? Borrowers can default. That's the biggest risk. And I actually have a video coming out about exactly what happens when a borrower stops paying because, yes, I have lived that too. But I will say this, the amount of drama I deal with now as a private money lender compared to when I was just a landlord, man, it's night and day. Like it's not even close. It's not comparable at all. So if you're watching this and you are a landlord who's tired,
I'm tired of that.
Sick and tired of being sick and tired of these 3 a.m. phone calls, or you're thinking about buying your first out of state property and you're wondering, what you're really signing up for, now you know, okay? I'm not here to hide this from you. And if you want to understand what alternatives look like, right? Like what it actually means to be the bank, provide those funds, I have a private lending starter guide that walks you through how it works, what you need to do to get started, and how to protect yourself, okay? The link for that is in the description, per usual. I also made a full video about using your solo 401k or self-directed IRA to fund these private money loans tax-free. Yes. So if that's something you're curious about, I'll link that there too. Now, let me know in the comments. Okay, have you ever had a landlord nightmare? If you have, please drop the story. Don't make me feel like I'm alone. I genuinely read every single one and I will respond. And if you're new here, please subscribe. I share everything, the wins, the mistakes, the pain, the real numbers, no filter. Okay. And I will see y'all in the next one. Stay encouraged.